Why does the intellect always live in harmony with nature? There is a saying, a flower that has not bloomed intentionally will wither and turn into a forest. This is not just a simple reminder, but a profound truth about how we face life and our desires. In life, many times we would fall into the state of trying to control everything, hoping that everything will happen as we wish. However, it's like when you hold sand in your hand, the tighter it is, the faster the sand falls. Life is a journey full of surprises and unpredictable. When we try to control everything, we not only lose the naturalness of everything, but also create unnecessary stress and pressure for ourselves. Like when we hold a handful of sand, the tighter it is, the more sand falls out of our hands. Only when we open our palms, we can hold more. Being in harmony with nature is not a passive attitude, but a state of acceptance of what cannot be changed, and the best use of what we have. When we open our hearts, receive life with all that it brings, we will see that there are precious things only when we no longer desire. Letting go helps us get out of the clutches of expectation. From there, we can truly feel peace and joy. In today's world full of change and pressure, living in harmony with nature also helps us reduce stress, find balance, and harmony in our souls. Each of us has goals and dreams, but sometimes, instead of forcing ourselves into rigid models, try letting go once and listen to the natural rhythm of life. You will be surprised to realize that when you don't desire, what you expect comes naturally and full of surprise. Living in harmony with nature opens our souls so that the flow of life leads us to wonderful places we have never thought of. In letting go and accepting it, we will see that the best things come in a gentle and natural way, like a flower blooming in peace without having to beg. As the saying goes, life and death are predestined, so with all the things in life, following nature is the best choice. People tend to worry a lot, mostly because they are worried about losing something or they have some kind of love in their hearts. People are usually in a state of self-indulgence, or they desire too much and can't achieve it, so they lose their pleasure, which is always there, but falls into misery. Everything doesn't have to be deliberately expressed. Let's use a calm and natural attitude to deal with love and life. Let go and follow nature so that we can achieve the best results. If we encounter difficulties and can't find the best solution, we should let it flow naturally. There is a story that once upon a time, there was a famous writer who came to an ancient temple to write a letter of praise. While he was writing, a cute student sat next to him and drew a lot of ink. At the same time, with every letter he wrote, the student gave a straightforward comment. After finishing a letter, the student said, "Sir, this letter is not beautiful." With every letter he wrote, the student felt dissatisfied, as if he hadn't shown all of his potential. Because the writer wrote a lot of letters, the student had the same comment. "This letter is worse than the previous one." The writer wrote 84 letters, but still did not receive the student's compliment. Finally, the student asked permission to go out. He thought deeply, and finally avoided his eyes. So the writer calmly wrote a letter with a very comfortable and natural attitude, without caring about the result. After the student returned to his room, he saw the letter, which was really a masterpiece. What is a farm? When you work hard in your heart to achieve the result you want, you are often disappointed. You don't ask for it, you do it naturally, and naturally you achieve the result you want. This is what the old man said, "You don't ask for it, but you get it." Tai Tuong was a writer, a lawyer, a famous officer during the Northern period. He had a very large beard, so people often called him a beardy American. Mr. Nan Tong really liked Tai Tuong's beard, so he once asked him, "I don't know at night when someone sleeps, does this beard grow inside or outside the forehead?" When Tai Tuong heard this question, he was shocked, because he had never noticed it, so he could not answer. That night, when Tai Tuong was sleeping, he put the beard outside the forehead, then put it inside the forehead. Finally, he couldn't sleep the whole night because he didn't know whether to put it inside or outside for the best result. Later, he realized that it was a normal time. You don't need to pay attention to it. Whether it's inside the forehead or outside the forehead, just let it be natural. It's strange how people sleep, how they wake up. It's all very natural. If there is a compulsion in the heart, then it turns out to be contrary to nature. When it's contrary to nature, how can you feel comfortable? In everyday life, people are usually in a state of self-abandonment or pursuing too much, then can't achieve it and suffer. Everything does not need to be deliberately demonstrated. Use a calm attitude to deal with the problems in life. Exhaustively follow nature. No need for compulsion can achieve the best effect. So how can we reach this state of mind? In the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu wrote, "Ren fa di fa tian, tien fa dao, dao fa zi ran." That is, people follow the earth follows the sky follows the Tao follows nature. This is to say that humans, the sky, the earth, and all things in the universe must harmonize according to the laws of the universe. If a person has a Tao in his heart, has the right standards, has a conscience, then for everything, it's not that the spiritual state is lost, but a calm attitude, dare to face, to uphold the principles. Therefore, in Taoism and Buddhism, there is a saying, Hu Fa, Hu Dao, which means to uphold the standards of nature, of the universe, uphold the truth. In life, there are many things that religion or people with other beliefs perceive with the general society. For example, some people do not believe in God. If there is a God, there is a Buddha. There is a Buddha, then why does the Buddha let people suffer like that? Actually, the Buddha is kind, is beautiful, but you are the fake ones who protect the truth. Nature will not be reckless to break the rules of the cause and effect of evil in the world. If there is a way to help people, then it is also in accordance with nature, in accordance with the laws of the universe, which protects everything. It will not be a manifestation in the sky waving one hand for people to be free from suffering, free from sin. There is a funny story that says a wanderer went to the temple seeing the Bodhisattva sitting on the lotus platform receiving the offering of the Buddha is very admirable. The wanderer stood there, stunned, and said, "Can you switch seats with me for a moment?" He raised his arms and answered, "No, I can't. I don't even know what my request is. Just stand here and look. As long as I don't open my mouth, no one will see me." The wanderer stood next to the lotus platform. In front of his eyes was a chaotic, gloomy day. Most of the people came to pray for this and that. He still tried to stand up without opening his mouth. A few days later, a rich man came to the Bodhisattva statue to ask for a favor. He prayed that the Bodhisattva would give his son a good character. After saying that, he bowed his head, stood up, but his wallet fell to the ground. The wanderer wanted to open his mouth to thank him, but he remembered the conditions of the bodhisattva, so he stopped. After the rich man left, a poor man came in. The poor man said, "Please, bodhisattva, give me some money. My son is seriously ill and needs money." He bowed his head, stood up, and saw a bag of money fall to the ground. The poor man got up. The bodhisattva was so kind. The poor man took the bag of money and walked away. The wanderer wanted to open his mouth and say, "It was a toy," but he remembered the conditions of the bodhisattva, so he opened his mouth. At this time, a wanderer came in. The wanderer asked for a favor. He prayed that the bodhisattva would give his son a good character. He went to the sea without seeing any waves. The wanderer bowed his head, stood up. The bodhisattva wanted to leave, but the rich man came in. The rich man said that the wanderer took his wallet, but the wanderer was so sad that he couldn't bear it. Because of the bag of money, the two people fought over the bag of dust. The wanderer couldn't stand it anymore. The bodhisattva shouted, "Stop!" Then he said, "Fight for it to be peaceful." After a while, the wanderer raised his voice. "I think it's right to do that. I think I'm very fair. But the poor have no money to save their loved ones. The rich have no chance to be virtuous." This time, the wanderer went to the sea, met the waves, and hid under the sea. If the child didn't open his mouth, the poor's life would be saved. The rich man spent a little money, but he was able to gain virtue. The wanderer also had no way to get on the boat. The wanderer was silent, bowed his head in front of the bodhisattva, and left. Some people wonder that following nature means doing nothing, leaving everything behind. This is not following nature at all. The meaning of the saying following nature is to follow the will of nature. The sun, the moon, and the moving stars do not rest, maintaining the environment for humans. Humans are the same, so they persist in doing things according to their will. Therefore, the ancients said, the nature of nature, the nature of the blue sky, is a reward for those who persist. Humans do not move their arms, their legs, their brains, but they want to have food, water, and water. That is impossible. To put it the other way, there are many emotions in life. It is what it is. In a work, our attitude is not to pray, to worry, but to be generous and to be sincere. Being sincere and generous is the most important thing. As for other things, they will follow the flow of fate. Whatever we deserve, we will get it. Everyone gets what he or she deserves. In this world, everything is equal. Everything is balanced between two opposite sides, bringing us valuable lessons. Love can bring infinite joy, but it can also cause profound pain. Money can help us enjoy life, but it is also the source of many troubles. Success can bring back happiness, but failure leaves behind the pain that is not easy to overcome. Everything you want to achieve is often accompanied by fear, and the level of feeling between joy and sadness is always balanced. Some people make money, but they lose their health, family, or love. Some people don't achieve much in their career, but they have a good life and good health. It may seem unfair, but in fact, life is always fair in its own way. For something you are looking forward to, if you achieve it, you will feel extremely happy. But if you lose it, you will feel equally painful. The level of feeling between joy and failure is always balanced. Some people make money, but they lose their health, family, or love. Some people don't achieve much in their career, but they have a good life and good health. It may seem unfair, but in fact, life is always fair in its own way. People often think that rich people are always happy, but in fact, this is not entirely true. A poor person who only spends a few $100,000 will always find joy. But when he has a lot of money, he will have to spend tens of thousands of dollars to find equal joy. When a person's preferences change, his feelings for everything will also change. When a person has more money, the value of the money will decrease. Therefore, it is difficult for people to use money to find a happier life. There is an old story that one day a hungry cat saw a wrong grape tree in the garden and wanted to eat it, but he couldn't find his way into the grape garden. After a while of searching, he happily discovered a hole in the fence. But this hole was too small for his body, so he was very sad because he couldn't get into the garden. The cat thought of a way. He waited outside the fence for 6 days and didn't eat anything. Therefore, his body was very thin, and he could easily get into the garden. He happily enjoyed the fragrant ripe grapes. But after he was very full, the cat discovered that his belly had grown a lot. He couldn't follow the old path but could go out, and so he would easily be caught by the garden owner. Therefore, the cat had to eat for 6 days in a row. However, after 6 days, the cat was able to get out of the fence, so the cat went back to the beginning. He couldn't gain anything after what he had experienced. There is a saying, a bird in the forest only needs a branch. Humans are the same. If we have the whole world, we can only eat 3 meals a day and sleep on a bed. Even if we have hundreds of beds, we can only sleep on one bed. Even if we have thousands of shoes, we can only walk on one pair. Even if we order hundreds of food, we can only eat until we are full. Everyone's location and wealth are different. The difference between rich and poor is high and low. However, the difference between pleasure and happiness is not that high. The happiness of the rich is complicated, while the happiness of the poor is much simpler. Everyone has joys and sorrows. At some point, when we reach a certain level, we will realize that every moment of joy or sorrow in life is precious. Every kind of pain, or pleasure. Everything we achieve or lose gives us valuable experiences and lessons. Joy and sorrow may come early to some people and late to others. Some people lose before they get later. Some people get before they get later. But if we think about it, we will see that it is a constant amount. No matter how happy we used to be, when we are sad, we will feel the same amount. Standing in front of life, old age, sickness, death, human life is very weak. When people die, there will be no difference between rich and poor. It is impossible to say that the rich will die more comfortably, while the poor will die more miserably. Some people, when they live to reach 10% when they die, they will also lose 10%. Those 10% are 10% of suffering. Perhaps this is absolutely fair. Those who have before may lose before. Those who have later may lose later. Those who have nothing will not lose. The sum of what is lost will always be zero. Therefore, we should not measure our life too much. We should not be too concerned about what we lose. Those who know enough, understand that what they lose, and live naturally, will live happily and happily. Everything in life has a cause. Nothing is without reason. In life, Every time we meet something that doesn't go the way we want, we often blame the heavens and the earth for not being fair. But in reality, every little thing that happens in everyone's life has a reason. It's just that we live in a dream, so we don't see it. In the time of Emperor Luangvu Day, it wasn't just because Nam Trio knew a very poor man. After Emperor Luangvu Day was in Vietnam, one day he came to Nào Du, Uyen Lai, and met this poor man again on the riverbank. Emperor Luangvu Day approached this man and asked him, after knowing that this man still lived a poor life like before, Emperor Luangvu Day said, "The next day, this poor man found Emperor Luangvu Day's place to meet him, but could not meet him. After that day, this poor man came to meet Emperor Luangvu Day many more times, but it was all because of this, something else that he could not meet, or could meet, but could not receive a letter of admission." Many people who have been trained and have the ability can see the cause and effect of a relationship. This poor man remembered that he was used to knowing a man with such ability. Therefore, he wanted to meet Emperor Luangvu Day to ask about the cause of the love that he was experiencing. The poor man, after meeting Emperor Luangvu Day, had not yet opened his mouth to ask, so Emperor Luangvu Day knew what this man wanted to ask. Emperor Luangvu Day said, the poor man said, "I put my heart into a bowl of oil, but it still leaked out. I really don't know what to do." Lao Huatuang clearly understood his confusion. He said, "This time, just pay attention to the way you go. Don't let your heart be afraid of leaking oil." As a result, this time, Tio Huatuang brought back a full bowl of oil. He didn't ask for it, but he got it himself. When we have a worried heart, if we lose it, it won't be good even if we can't get the effective fatigue in our heart. On the other hand, when we can hold it and let it go, that's when we reach the bottom of the heartless forest. In a life far into the material world, people are often fascinated, not affectionate. The more stubborn they are, the more worried they are. Very often, because they want to pursue too much that people don't pay attention to. Even wealth and fame can make people fall into a deep abyss. When we have a heartless mind, it's easy to lose all our talents, but we can still see the loss. Life is also a little bit fun. In that state of enjoying life, also in the effort to do all the responsibilities, we can achieve what we deserve. This is not asking for it, but getting it yourself. Not asking for it, but getting it still has a meaning. That is, people are not equal in nature. In the bright forest, there is a shelter for everyone. The good man is in harmony with heaven. Although the moment has not yet come, the flower has already fallen far away. The book says, "Heaven is not because man is afraid of the cold that he leaves the winter. Earth is not because man is bored of the poor that he does not speak loudly. The gentleman is not because of the poor that he changes his behavior. Heaven and earth have certain rules of operation. The gentleman has eternal behavior. The gentleman has a straight road. The gentleman only calculates for himself. The gentleman can follow the way of heaven. He is such a good man. Heaven has the virtue of sacrifice. Heaven does not cross the path of man. As long as man can respect heaven, confess his sins, and do good deeds, then even if he is temporarily in the crossroads, he will naturally find his way out. In the old days, it was said, in a wooden room, the sound of a bell can be heard outside. In a deep pot, the sound of a clam can be heard in the air. Therefore, if man can try to cultivate himself, he will not only pray, but also achieve everything. Many things depend on fate, and many prayers are useless. The natural order is what people often overlook when talking about the lessons of success, because we cannot talk about it without making a mistake. However, it is the missing piece that everyone has been looking for. Successful people do not work hard. People often misunderstand the meaning of this word. Successful people do not work blindly. They do not try to pursue less effective things or even do not exist. They work all day and night for what they feel brings the most results. These people work tirelessly, even harder than their colleagues, because work for them is a natural order. However, if not, they will be exhausted, and will not achieve anything. Life always tells you not to give up, no matter what happens. However, you realize that only when you stop trying too hard, good things will appear. When you try to pray for happiness and success, it will avoid you. However, as long as you stop, happiness and success will come. The things you do in this life never go according to your original plan. They are all planned by the things we only do after we have forced ourselves to face fate. When you try not to think about something, your mind will be drawn to it. The more you run away, the more you see it everywhere. People who try so hard that they lose themselves are often not recognized by others. Everything is like sand in your hand. The more you hold on to it, the more you lose. Try to look at your own life and those around you. Sometimes you will think that those who work in the service industry have to work harder than their boss. However, the people involved do not think so, because they have completely different goals. Work is only hard when we force ourselves into a corner, and we only force ourselves into a corner when the work is really boring and boring. As a human, no one wants to sacrifice their success for things like opportunities, fate, or destiny. In fact, those are not the only determining factors. However, avoiding these things will make you lose a lot. Sometimes people have the ability to forget time, food, and completely immerse themselves in work. This is when we work the most effectively, and whoever can do this every day will be closer to long-term success. However, how can you finish your work when you have to force yourself to do it? Ask any successful person you know, because they will tell you the truth. They have worked very hard, but their mind is at ease, and naturally, they also contribute a lot to their success. Authors who are forced to hold a pen will never be able to write a good article. Learn to let things happen naturally, without being hindered by your own doubts and worries. However, you should also remember that those who work hard will be more successful than those who only rely on their innate talent and do not try. But if you know how to combine both innate talent and unceasing effort, the result you get will not be simple, but a win-win situation. That is when the X factor is formed. That is the source of wonderful results, with one, not two. This is not just a trick to work effectively. This is not just a trick to succeed quickly and easily. According to nature, it is an indispensable part of our lives. It is a greater power than humans. It is something that we all want to understand and use. Nature also acts according to a certain process. The body recovers itself when we do not interfere in the process of healing wounds. Life is the same. When we cannot control life, We often see it as a negative thing, like a loss or illness. However, that loss of control is sometimes beneficial. There are things beyond our control that will lead us to even better results than what we choose. According to nature, it is a factor that many people often disagree with laziness and impulsiveness. However, this is not true at all. If you want to have a lover, you have to be brave enough to date them. If you want to publish a work, you have to be brave enough to write it. But if you force yourself to the point of tension and fear, you will never succeed. Being too focused on a goal will make you obsessed with perfection. In the end, you will destroy the most important thing, which is the final result. In life, we are chosen by our goals, not by our habits. If we need a secret, we will find it, but maybe it is not what we thought at first. If we want a successful career, we will achieve it, but maybe not in the first field we try. We often forget one thing. Life does not help us succeed, but success is the gift we give to life, and we will reap the benefits from it. Never beg or fight for something. Accept everything in the most comfortable way. Just like holding sand in your hand, let go and let everything flow naturally. The story of the Bodhisattva and the wanderer. People used to say that the flow of nature is the root of the human nature. The Buddha also said that the rebellion of the foot drives away stupidity and returns to the main path. In life, all that happens is predestined from the beginning. But people often want to interfere in that love, but do not understand that reason. There was a wanderer who went to the temple and saw the Bodhisattva sitting on the lotus platform receiving everyone's offerings. He was very admiring. The wanderer said, "Can I switch seats with you for a moment?" The Bodhisattva replied, "I just need you not to open your mouth." The wanderer sat on the lotus platform. In front of him was a chaotic day. Most of the people came to pray for this and that. He still tried to stand up without opening his mouth. One day, a monk came. The monk prayed that the Bodhisattva would give his son a good character. The monk nodded and stood up. The money fell to the ground. The wanderer wanted to open his mouth to beg, but he remembered the condition of the Bodhisattva. After the monk left, a poor man came in. The poor man said, "Please, Bodhisattva, give me some money. My family is very sick. I really need money." He bowed his head and stood up. He saw a bag of money fall to the ground. The poor man got up. The Bodhisattva was so kind. He took the bag of money and left. The wanderer wanted to open his mouth and say, "You are not kind. That is what people throw away." But he remembered the condition of the Bodhisattva. At this time, a passerby came in. The passerby begged, "Please, Bodhisattva, give my son peace." The passerby begged. He bowed his head and stood up. He wanted to leave, but the passerby pushed him. Because of the bag of money, the two people fought with each other. The passerby said that the wanderer took the bag of money, and the wanderer felt so sad that he could not bear it anymore. The wanderer could not bear it anymore. He shouted, "Stop!" Then he brought the monk to tell them. They argued and then calmed down. At this time, the Bodhisattva said, "You feel that's the right thing to do. You should continue to be a wanderer. You open your mouth and think you're very fair, but you're poor, so you don't have the money to save your loved ones. You're rich, so you don't have the opportunity to do good. You're a fisherman, so you go to the sea to meet the waves and hide under the bottom of the sea. If you don't open your mouth, the lives of those poor people will be saved. You're rich, so you save a little money, but you help others to gain good. Fishermen also have no way to get on the boat because of the current. To avoid the rain, they may still be alive. After hearing that sentence, the wanderer quietly left the temple. A lot of things happen according to a set rule. Let it go naturally. The result will be better. When faced with work, who knows what the result will be? Silence follows the development as a kind of ability. Therefore, following nature is a kind of happiness. It is also the boundary of wisdom. Life is unusual. Only peace can overcome pain. Unusual is the normal state of human life. When we see the unusual in life, we can be at peace and overcome all pain. Human life is constantly changing. The light of today's stage is exploding. Tomorrow may fall to the bottom. Today's tragic situation may be bright tomorrow. There is no eternal happiness in life. It is always full of lies and troubles. There are times when beauty is precious, when it is like a musical note with a scale. When you see the unusual in life, you will find that all the pains in life are normal. Life is unusual. Be calm and accept it. Regardless of whether you accept it or not, you can't change the fact that everyone has to go through life and death. Instead of avoiding it or accepting it, just let everything happen naturally. In life, there will be people who are destined. The one who should come will come. The one who should go will go. Whether you want it or not, no matter how sad it is, facing and accepting life and death is a must-have lesson in life. When you truly understand the unusual in life, you can learn to be optimistic every day and know how to be kind to those around you in the most sincere way. Everything is unusual. Face it with optimism. There is a saying that life is like a parabola, going up and down, going down and up. There will be times when it is precious, and there will also be times when it is hopeless, boring. No matter what the situation is, you have to learn to face it with optimism. Let's face the truth that no one can live a life of happiness and sadness forever. No matter what happens, you have to learn to face it with optimism. A person who is happy is not a burden on them, but a stronghold in their heart. A strong person is not about how much they can conquer, but about what they can bear. Life has many different paths and choices. Once you fall into a bad situation, you need to learn how to maintain a good attitude. Being obsessed with unhappiness and pain only makes you worse. Learn to smile when faced with adversity so that you can escape from the vicious circle from within. Love between people is unusual. The path is difficult, not because of deep water or high mountains, but because of the complexity of people's hearts. When a person is in a high position, it is very difficult to see the human nature. Only in a difficult situation can you really distinguish the warmth and coolness of the human heart. During the reign of Emperor Van Hyen, there was a great god named Chach Kong. When he was in high office, his house was full of guests and his carriage was full of horses. But when he lost his office and fell into a difficult situation, few people came to visit him. He was totally different from before. It made him feel extremely depressed. He was so emotional that he said, "Only when you are in a difficult situation can you tell who is your friend, and who is truly sincere to you." In fact, the nature of human beings is to seek advantages and avoid disadvantages. One day, you will realize that even those who have the same blood as you may be cold to you. Even the closest people to you may leave you. Even friendships like brotherhood may hurt you. One day, you will understand that in this world, there is no relationship that is forever unchanged. There is also no friendship that is unbreakable. When you look at the simple kindness of human beings, look at the coolness of the time, you will be able to live in peace with everything around you. In the last years of his life, he wrote, "The most beautiful scene in life is the tranquility and peace of the human heart." Throughout his life, he has experienced countless difficulties and hardships, but no matter how hard it is, he can always maintain a firm and calm heart. In fact, that is also the highest boundary of human life. Uncertainty is the normal state of human life. When we see the uncertainty in life, we can be at peace and overcome all pain. Uncertainty in human life is to live in peace and tranquility. The Buddha said that human life is uncertainty. Countless things always change. That is the normal state of the world. Life is like that. Time is like flowing water. Countless things always change. Uncertainty is lost. Only by understanding this truth can we live in peace and tranquility. There is a writer who wrote, "Regret is a normal thing. Loneliness is also a normal thing. We are born to suffer. We are born to see the uncertainty change. In life, there are people and things." A second ago, it was the same, but only a second later, it has changed. Beautiful things in this world are hard to keep for a long time. Things will come and go. Everything should be up to fate. Uncertainty should not be appreciated. Loss should not be despised. In the famous work Long, Long Dream, there is a saying that when you are happy, uncertainty will come. Human life is like that. No matter how glorious life is, it is not free from uncertainty. In the spring, Ngo Vuong Phu Sai was determined to avenge his father by defeating Viet Vuong Co Tien. But he was so happy that he lost to Viet Vuong. He was so ashamed that after he lost his country, Ngo Vuong committed suicide. Uncertainty is like that. You never know what will happen tomorrow. Uncertainty was so poor that a homeless man told him if he dared to use his sword to stab him. If he didn't dare, he should go under his roof. Uncertainty went under the roof of that homeless man. In his next life, he was a generous man. Many years later, uncertainty became a queen, and the other homeless man was just like that. We will never know what will happen in the next second. Therefore, when we encounter uncertainty, we should believe that nothing is bad forever. When we encounter uncertainty, we should believe that nothing is good forever. Therefore, the old wise man always kept calm to face and accept everything. Adapting to the unusual life is the manifestation of wisdom. Adapting to the unusual life is the right attitude. Todongfei was the most lost city in Chinese history. It was once besieged by Vung Anthak and forced to leave the capital to live outside. When the city was taken away, Todongfa was left with nothing but a basket of vegetables, fish, and wine. When he was imprisoned in Huangzhou, he wrote, "Trongjiang is full of beautiful fish, full of fragrant scents. Although this is a small town, a desolate town, he happily accepted to build a house, plant a knife, dig a well, plant a garden, and enjoy the scenery of Dien Bien." As he lived a long life, he fell in love with this remote land and used his spare time to compose, sing, and write. When he was imprisoned in Huichao, Tothuk wrote, "A few days are not enough for 300 fruits. I am not afraid to be a peasant of Lin Nam." He comforted himself. Even if life is bad, there are good food to eat. No matter how busy life is, he may not care more about the environment, adapt to the environment. In life, there are many times when we face unresolved problems that seem unacceptable, but after a while, we suddenly feel that everything is not so complicated. Everything is well organized. There is no situation that does not change. There is no life that is 1,000 years old. 1 year, 4 seasons change. The weather is different. A life of joy, sadness, confusion. The most painful or the most expensive will pass. We should not be stubborn about losing. We should be stubborn about perfection. The moon is full, then it is empty. Tens of thousands of things are transformed. The flowers are fresh, then they wither. The water is full, then it is overflowing. Everything should flow naturally. It is up to fate that we live to be able to maintain a peaceful and quiet mind in this unusual world. There is no reason to live according to the nature of the old man. Do as if you did not do, flow naturally, and do not wait for the result. There are people who work as if they did not do. Not doing here does not mean not doing anything, but doing. But the feeling of peace and relaxation is falling into a state of not thinking, but being peaceful and quiet. The more mature we are, the more we face many fears. One of them is the fear of responsibility, and one of the responsibilities includes working. From this perspective, we begin to feel that working is a burden that makes us not feel comfortable or relaxed. When it comes to work, we talk about stress, pressure, and financial confusion. But we can't not do it because it is the best way for us to survive in a world where everyone has to work hard. Even the most beautiful people who wear expensive jewelry and clothes actually have to work. Even the rich kids have to work. However, there are people who work as if they did not do. The way they work is like the way they breathe, very natural and instinctive. This way of working also means to do nothing. To do nothing means to do. To do nothing means to do nothing. But that does not mean to do nothing in the black meaning. It is more accurate to say to do nothing, but not to accomplish anything. Take an example. The sun does not do anything, but in its brightness, nothing is not accomplished. Perhaps you have heard of the saying of the old man, but it is not a saying, but the truth and the way of life. People who do nothing are usually peaceful and quiet. They are civilized, but always in the original state of mind, not busy worrying, not rushing. Everything is natural, light as a stream. The principle of doing nothing follows nature and does not look forward to the result. No one can force nature to slow down or slow down. Nature is instinctive. There is life. There is death. And it always changes according to their time. People who do nothing understand this principle, so they focus on completing their work, then stand on one side and live according to the circumstances. People who do nothing have thoughts, have the ability to speak and act according to the heart and will, but they do not look forward to the result. Just as the sun shines, the sun does not expect gratitude from anyone. Whoever turns their back to the sun, whoever runs away from the sun, whoever comes up to pick up its light, the sun does not care. It shines according to its instinct and value. As Hafez once said, even after all those years, the sun has never told the earth that you owe me. Look at what love can bring. It shines all over the sky. People who do nothing, do not boast, and do not show off. They do not try to prove themselves. They work silently. From small to big, they are all perfect. They are calm and slow. They learn how to receive the joy of being alone, because happiness is both a journey and a destination, following God's will, listening to God's will. In the Bible, the apostle says, music is God's will, so there is nothing to worry about. The wise and gentle in the ancient times were all obedient to God's will, listening to God's will, respecting and nurturing virtue. Therefore, no matter what happens, they all maintain an optimistic, calm attitude to face it. In the book, there is a story like this. In the northern and southern dynasties, Li Hum, king of western Luang, was a pious man, often only for personal gain. But his mother, Duan Tai Hao, was very wise and profound. In the autumn of 420, King Tutu Mongton of northern Luang decided to capture western Luang. In order to win the battle, Mongton led his army and defeated Haomon of western Tan. Upon reaching Haomon, northern Luang's army immediately retreated and hid in Shuyan Nam. Li Hum heard that northern Luang was attacking western Tan, so he was very excited and decided to take the city of northern Luang. Duan Tai Hao heard this news and hurried to stop his son. He told Li Hum that western Luang was a newly established country, with a small territory, a small population, and not enough self-defense. How could he have the strength to take over another country when the former king had advised his soldiers to be careful and to protect the country and the people while waiting for the opportunity? The king's words were still in his ears. How could he not hear them? He told his son that Mongton was a good soldier, not someone he could face. For many years, Mongton still wanted to take over the country. Although the country was small, it was enough for Mongton to perform good deeds, cultivate morality, and educate the people. Mongton thought that the people would naturally be loyal to him. If he was a wise man, he should take care of the people. How could he act without thinking? He hoped for luck and success. This time, the soldiers were not only the casualties of the soldiers, but also the deaths of the country. Duan Tai Hao was in pain, but Li Hum did not listen and hurried to lead the army. As a result, the Western army fell into Mongton's trap. All the soldiers were killed. Li Hum was also killed. The Western army was captured by Luang Chimlin. Duan Tai Hao was also captured. Mongton knew that his plot could not deceive Duan Tai Hao. He always respected Duan Tai Hao's wisdom and knowledge, so he went to visit her. Duan Tai Hao met Mongton. His face did not change, and he even showed an attitude of respect for Mongton. The person next to Mongton whispered to Duan Tai Hao. Her life was in his hands. How could he be so arrogant? Duan Tai Hao heard this and laughed. An old woman like me who lost her home, should I visit the rest of my life and be a burden to others? The other person found it strange and asked, her child was dead. The country was also destroyed. How could she not be sad? Duan Tai Hao kept calm and said, life and death are all predestined. I am not a child. Why should I pretend to be sad? Mongton heard these words and respected Duan Tai Hao even more. He not only did not blame Duan Tai Hao, but also gave his son as a permanent residence. He took Duan Tai Hao's daughter as his wife. The two families became family. It was because Duan Tai Hao accepted God's will and followed God's will that Duan Tai Hao, despite losing her home, remained optimistic, calm as if nothing had happened. In the traditional culture, there are many things about God's will. There is no word for it. Life and death are predestined. The fate of the generations is also equal to the number of God's will, according to God's will. In the Tai Bin Quang Ki scroll, it is written that on the 22nd year of the reign of Tai Tung, the star Thai Bok appeared many times in the middle of the day. The Thai monk said this was a sign that a new ruler was coming. A while later, the people exchanged words that after 3 generations of Tai Tung, the ruler of Va Vung ruled the country. The emperor of Tai Tung was worried about these rumors, so he secretly contacted Li Tuanfang, who was well versed in geography and history, to ask about the fate of the dynasty. Li Tuanfang replied that the fate of the dynasty lasted for about 300 years, but in the end, there would be a person who would take away Li Jia's throne. The emperor of Tai Tung said that he would kill that person to end the aftermath. Li Tuanfang replied that this was God's will. What could human strength do? This person is now 20 years old. If he were to be killed now, the heavens would destroy our country, and the children of the dynasty would be in danger. The emperor of Tai Tung was someone who listened to advice and knew that God's will could not be rejected. Therefore, even though he knew that there was a dangerous disaster and that the country was about to sink into the hands of the emperor, he still followed God's will and did not do anything reckless and did not kill the aftermath. Since then, Tai Tung has not asked about this matter. There are many famous historical figures from ancient times, from the people who lived in remote places to the emperor of a country, or even the great masters who knew that all of God's will could not be rejected. Therefore, they only followed God's will and did human things. The inscriptions in religion about Buddha Thika, or Jesus, also reveal that following God's will would bring peace. In ancient times, the nobles, the high moralists, always understood that human beings must uphold human morality. The standards set by the nobles were not absurd or superstitious, but actually God's will manifested in human beings. People need to live in accordance with God's will in order to exist for a long time and hope for peace. This is also the case when it comes to becoming a monastic. A person's words and actions are based on his consciousness as well as his thoughts. A person's actions will reflect his thoughts as well as his inner thoughts. Just as a person with a good heart knows how to think for others, the morality of human beings is a part of God's will, which in ancient times was called eternal will. A person who can uphold his own moral standards with the mindset that his words must be sincere and his actions must be respectful will naturally be upright, and kind. If a person can live in accordance with God's will, he will certainly be protected by the nature of the Buddha. On the other hand, he will be trapped in the trap of the devil. Those who live in accordance with God's will certainly be more prosperous. Those who disobey God's will certainly be exterminated. Those who understand God's will never go astray. They always think about their actions, words, and lives in accordance with nature, not going against the natural cycle. A person who has thoughts, moral concepts, words, and actions that are not in accordance with God's will, or even against God's will be punished. Doing evil may be able to escape the punishment of the law of man, but will still be punished by God. Eternity depends on fate, which is the highest boundary of life. In life, there are many people who do not run away even if they want to. They do not want to think, but they still have to think. These things are called fate. Things that humans cannot see, cannot ask for, can only be chosen according to the best. There are many types of fate in nature. In the ocean, those who are lost may meet people they know and understand, which is naturally a type of fate that people have to respect. But in life, the more fate there is, the more we see each other on the road, the more we cross the road to avoid the rain under the umbrella, or talk to each other at the bus stop waiting for the bus. All the people we meet and all the things we see are all fated to us. Even in the vast ocean, two fish swim and accidentally meet and see each other. It's all the same, because in their lives they are fated to each other. So when we hold something in our hands, we should cherish it. Even when we lose it, we should not be too sad. Life should depend on fate, according to fate. Fate cannot be used randomly, nor can it be found and held in one's hand. We often hear the saying, fate is like an umbrella, unfated to meet, unfaithful to meet. Other people, thousands of kilometers away, strangers, just need to look at each other, think about each other. It's already fate. In the journey of life, we meet a lot of people who are fated, but just passers-by. There are also people who become acquaintances, close friends, even life friends. In life, there are too many things that cannot be known, just a thought in the head. Once you decide, you can hold it or let it go once. When we accept someone saying, everything is because of fate, and letting it go is also because of fate. All things are predestined by fate. That's how it is in life, and that's how it is in life. The fate of man is a kind of human relationship. The Buddha said that the fate of human life, regardless of bad luck, good luck, love, is the result of many lives, many lifetimes. Chiam Chiki is a kind of fate. In the human world, we can meet each other as the beginning of fate, get to know each other as the end of fate, get close to each other as the destination of fate. In the other world, Chiki and Zubanya don't need any introduction or explanation, just a short talk. They make the spiritual movement and become Chiki's friends. This is the collision of the spirit and the spirit. The meeting of Chiam and Chiam is a natural fate. No desire, no desire. The heart of a good person can be connected to a good fate. When being with another person, even for a short time, we have to bring the kindness to the other person. This is the best way to value the fate. Because in life, following the fate without forgetting to be kind can be a good foundation for the future. In the old days, to eliminate bad luck, we can use a pair of shoes, a stick, and a bowl to travel around. When hungry, we go to the street to ask for a piece of rice. When tired, we stay at home for a night. They call it the fate. Although such a life is difficult and painful, they are very calm. Every day they can be not worried, not sad. The 4 C's are home. Every step is to follow the heart. No desire, no desire. Fate is a kind of wisdom. Fate, of course, is not the face of all things and people in the world. It is not just chasing fun and entertainment, but also nurturing a calm attitude before everything, being able to see and lose, fame and profit in life. Everything depends on fate. Maintaining a calm attitude is the highest boundary of human life. As long as we follow fate, Even if the sky is blue or gloomy, the road is bumpy or flat, the heart will still be peaceful and calm. In the limited time of life, knowing how to depend on fate, respecting fate, the more we can live freely and freely. Facing fate, do not look for it and do not bother it. When fate comes, respect and cherish fate. When fate goes, we should follow fate. All teachers live according to nature, which is the best. The story of Buddhism depends on fate. Life depends on fate. Life is life without any rules and facing anything, whether it is good or bad. What has happened and is happening are all lessons to increase the experience for yourself, whether it is good or bad, bring success or failure. Fate is not a life partner for fate, but a way to respond flexibly, harmoniously with all circumstances, take every opportunity to express yourself and contribute to life. The story of the grass garden. On the third day of the year, the hottest season in the year, the whole garden of the temple has become a dry, yellow grass field. It's really hard to see this grass. Uncle Tew said, waiting for the cool weather, Master waved his hand, depending on the season. In the middle of the autumn, Master bought a bag of wild grass seeds, called Uncle Tew, to bring this bag of seeds to the field. The autumn wind blew up and swept away the seeds that had just been planted. It's not over yet. The seeds have been blown away by the wind. Uncle Tew shouted, "Come on, it's okay. There are still a lot of seeds. The wind can't sweep them away." Master said, "It's up to you. After the wind has taken away the seeds, there are some birds coming down to eat. It's over. The seeds have been eaten by the birds." Uncle Tew jumped and shouted, "It's okay. There are still a lot of seeds. We can't eat them all." Master said, "It's up to you." In the middle of the night, there was a heavy rain. Just before dawn, Uncle Tew hurried into Master's room. "Master, it's really over this time. The seeds have been blown away by the rain. No matter where they go, they will grow there." Master said, "It's up to you." More than half a month later, a patch of barren land grew up on the green grass again. There are some spruces that have not yet sprouted, but they still grow green. Uncle Tew applauded and was very happy. Master nodded. "It's up to you." Destiny does not mean that life is decided by nature or society. It's not like dry branches for a stream of water to flow. Destiny is the harmony in nature to improve nature, and it is the commitment to society to contribute to the correction of the bad and unfavorable behaviors that exist in society. What has and is happening in life are all lessons that increase the experience for oneself, whether it is good or bad, bring success or failure. With those experiences, we will use them in our present and future lives, use them to accept and respond to what is and will happen. People, society, and the conditions of life always change and move. This is a completely realistic and objective existence. Therefore, we cannot avoid what is happening in life. On the contrary, we have to face it. Have the courage to accept and respond to what is and will happen. We need to harmonize in life to contribute to life what is good and beautiful that we have and society needs. The manifestation of water. The manifestation of water is the image of the stream of destiny. No matter what conditions the water is in, no matter what environment it is in the stream, it is round. In the stream, it is long. This is the spirit of impermanence. Impermanence is to follow the principles of life, the nature of life, to live life without losing it. With this spirit, we can manifest everywhere in our thoughts, in our actions. If we can live and use the spirit of impermanence, we will always maintain the light of our heart, not be pulled by the winds, not be hindered by any phenomenon, or lose the value of life. The story of Lao Hua Thuong. Once upon a time, there was a Lao Hua Thuong who lived in an ancient pagoda on a high mountain. One day, there was a guest visiting the pagoda. The guest knew Lao Hua Thuong had practiced Dak Dao and asked him, before Dak Dao, "What did you do?" Lao Hua Thuong replied, "I plowed, watered, and cooked rice." The guest asked, "So what after Dak Dao?" Lao Hua Thuong said, "I plowed, watered, and cooked rice." The guest asked again, "What is Dak Dao?" Lao Hua Thuong replied, "Before Dak Dao, I plowed, watered, and cooked rice. And the next day, I plowed, watered. After Dak Dao, I plowed, watered, and cooked rice." The cause of all suffering BI in life is because people can't let go of their sorrows, can't let fate decide for them. Only when they deal with everything in a carefree, selfless, and selfless way can they find the true peace in their souls. Life is never always smooth sailing. The sky is not always bright and clear. The rainbow only appears after heavy rain. The happy and sad days come together. That is the selflessness of the earth. That is the happiness of the sky of this universe. When you understand that, you are naturally able to face life. And when you encounter happy things, you are not too excited. And when you face sadness, you are not too depressed. You are not too sad. If you have a carefree attitude, you will realize that no matter how dark the sky is or how bright the light is, life is always calm and peaceful. Even if fate becomes a bridge, don't let it go too far. Don't let it go too far. Know how to seize the opportunity. Deal with life according to fate. Embrace the heart with compassion, tolerance, and generosity. That is the true selflessness. In fact, selflessness is not an easy thing to do. Only when you have a certain level of thinking can you truly understand and do this well. The so-called selflessness here is not depending on what is convenient or not, but following nature, not being jealous, not being hot-tempered, not being stubborn. So what is fate? All things in this world are related to each other in a word, fate. Regardless of whether it is fate, chance, or good fate, they all exist at all times. But fate also has two sides, positive and negative. Being kind-hearted, not judging the outcome, or being negative, taking the attitude of fate, which is opposite to life. This is positive selflessness, not wishing to be able to hold on to fate. On the other hand, taking the reason of fate which does not make you feel sad, not wanting to ask for help, being arrogant, trying to avoid difficulties, is an extreme form of selflessness. Selflessness now becomes a reason for people to be lazy, self-indulgent. Selflessness is another form of good fate. Good fate is to do things well, to get things done, to not have any principles, to not have any stances, and to not be responsible. Good fate is to follow your destiny, to be optimistic, and to be able to stand out. With this attitude of good fate, we will face all the obstacles in life and find peace and tranquility in each and every moment of our lives. Understand the 5 opposite rules of human life to live freely. The world exists with its own rules, and so do humans. The ultimate goal of human life is to find happiness. The more suffering and loss we experience, the happier we become. But happiness or not depends on how we perceive and think about what is happening. To experience the 5 opposite sides, to have the right view of life, you have to make your own decisions. This means that we should not think too much about what is happening. Everything comes and goes as it pleases. Only when we don't think too much can we be happy and keep calm. Only when we can do this can we truly feel free. There is a story like this. A man and a woman are taking a sun bath on the beach. The man asks, "I've worked my whole life and made a lot of money. Now I can enjoy life. But why do people like you just lie here and don't go fishing?" The woman replies, "I've been working for more than half my life and haven't made much money. But in the morning I've been fishing, and in the afternoon I have time to take a sun bath like you. Every day is the same." The man doesn't know what to say anymore. The story above says one thing. Human life is a transition between gain and loss. We can't stop having, and we can't stop losing. We just need to accept and face it, because life is already a cycle. 2. Benefit and harm. We should think about the harm first. Everything in the world has 2 opposite sides. In profit, there is harm. In harm, there is benefit. What happens in this life is the same. In good, there is bad. In bad, there is good. A healthy body, of course, is not as good as the other, but in C there is instability. Many people feel very healthy and then subconsciously stay up all night eating, drinking, smoking, drinking, and then the body gets worse. Being ill is a bad thing, but in an illness, there is a good thing. Many people fell ill with diabetes and high blood pressure, so they started to drink a lot. Then they got used to a healthy lifestyle and valued their body and their loved ones. 3. Wealth and poverty. Poverty must be worth it. Wealth is boundless. The gap between the rich and the poor between people, but the most important thing is to be able to do it. Poverty must have a purpose. Rich, but not poor. Being born into a poor family is a waste, but if it has a purpose, effort, struggle, then one day fate will change. On the other hand, rich people must be modest, not self-sacrificing, not showing off their wealth. That way, their wealth will last, and their life will be full forever. People who have been poor all day long only know how to be greedy. Without a purpose, poverty is still poverty. It's rare to find someone who can hold on to his heart when he's at a loss. Many people, after becoming rich, even change their way of life. Forget about charity and saving. In the end, the bitter end also comes. 4. Suffering and loss, sadness or happiness is what we want to get rid of. Suffering and happiness are 2 opposite sides, but they coexist. Extreme happiness is often accompanied by suffering and loss. Sadness or happiness, in the end, is just the mindset of a person dependent on their own subjective thoughts. A person who doesn't like coffee, of course, will say that coffee is bitter, but a person who likes coffee will say that this drink is rich, clear, bitter, has a sweet and unforgettable aftertaste. Some people get 3 parts, but can feel 7 happy parts. But some people get 7 parts, but only 3 happy parts. 5. Life and death. Life and death are common, precious, and present. People who live in this world also have to face death. Life and death are rules. As a human being, we have to live according to values. Death should also be natural. Therefore, we must respect ourselves, cherish life and death. In life, everyone has a different way of understanding and perceiving life. Of course, everyone has their own way of living, but the core must be to treat life well. We should also accept the end naturally. A person who can see life and death must have peace and tranquility in his heart. Only then can he see life and death in many different ways. The nature of the individual is to follow nature. The most natural concept is the deep and core concept in the traditional culture of the East. It is believed that the human body is a small universe, which has an incompatibility and harmony with the universe and nature. Therefore, people used to live and work according to the nature of the earth, according to the concept of the universe and the nature of the spirit. A very important feature of the way of living according to the nature of the earth is to live according to the natural form. This is also one of the wisdoms of the ancient democracy. When Dai Vuchithui followed the custom, characteristic of the country, observed the terrain, the location of the base, and chose to use a skillful, well-guided method of splitting mountains, digging canyons, and clearing roads, he followed the water system to lead the flood to the Big Sea. Finally, after 13 years, Dai Vuchithui successfully created happiness for the people. Before that, Dai Vu's father, Mr. Khan, used to build many dams to prevent floods. His method was contrary to the nature of the country. As a result, floods occurred continuously and destroyed the dams over and over again. Mr. Khan led the flood for 9 years without any effect. On the contrary, it brought great disaster to the people. There is also a funny story in the folklore. One day, the wind and the sun challenged each other to see who was stronger. The two sides challenged each other to see who could make people on the ground take off their clothes first. The wind beside me was strong, so I raised my shield to pull everyone's clothes out. But the stronger the wind, the tighter people kept their clothes. As a result, the strong wind made people fall, and the clothes were tightly wrapped around people's bodies. The sun looked at the river, smiled, and gently showed a heat wave that warmed the ground. When the air temperature rose, people felt hotter, so everyone took off their clothes. These are the results of two different kinds of wisdom. On one side is simplicity, and on the other side is adversity. The glorious days in history, when the country was ruled, all followed the law of nature. In the way the country was ruled, there were divisions into kingdoms, 3 kingdoms, and there were kingdoms that were governed by kingdoms. The Taoists believe that all things in the world are created by nature, by the Tao. The nature of human beings is in the Tao. It is the after heavens that gradually make human beings depart from nature, depart from the Tao. Like the Yangtze River and the Yellow River, at first they all flowed into the vast ocean. But it was the after heavens, like mud, soil, sand, and rocks that made their currents change, so that they could no longer return to the vast ocean but caused disasters. The kings understood the Tao. Instead of imposing and restricting the people, they chose to open up the way, using themselves as a mirror to teach the people, making the people return to the nature of the after heavens, returning to the Tao. But in order to do this, the king's followers had to be strict. Their morality had to be extremely high. Their wisdom had to be extremely great. When their morality shone like the sun shining on the earth, then their people also said, "The world will follow the path that is more and more beautiful."